We're back in France and the race for the title is on a knife edge. Points are at a premium for the 30 elite combinations, who include Olympic gold medalist, world #1 and the current series leader. It's all to play for here at the historic Haras De Jardy. This is eventing reinvented. This is the Event Rider Masters.
This weekend, the International Eventing Show here at Haras De Jardy hosts some of the world's best. Located just outside of Versailles, this famous stud with its incredible architecture and centuries-old stables, along with the top-class facilities here, mean we are in for a real treat. 7 of the world's top 20 ranked riders, 7 former leg winners and 7 different nations represented in the field. It is a pivotal point in the series and we cannot wait to see how the action unfolds. Yesterday, all of the action was about the style, the grace, the elegance of the dressage. Today is all about the thrills and the spills of the jumping phases. Very, very warm welcome to you. Delighted to say, joining me in the studio, double world champion, Blythe Tate. Blythe, really looking forward to having you with us throughout the day.
Thank you, Nicole. I'm looking forward to the action.
And you were known in your day for being brilliant in the jumping phases. We can't wait to hear your thoughts on the cross country and the show jumping today.
Yep, no, I'm happy to share them with you, and I'm not always right, but I will give my opinion.
Well, that's all we can ask for. But it isn't just us here in the studio, down on the ground, getting all of the reaction from the riders. Let's go and say a very good morning to Hannah White.
Good morning, Nicole. Well, I can tell you it's a little bit chillier down here today. The conditions changing slightly, but the competition is as hot as ever. We're here in the show jumping arena and all the competitors are just walking the course at the moment. It is long, it is technical, and it's going to ask a lot of our 29 combinations who are coming forward this morning to battle it out to be top of that Jardy podium.
Well, it is leg 4 in this series here. We've had 3 legs already, and just a few weeks ago, we were in Belgium, beautiful Belgium, in Arville for leg 3. And my goodness, it was dramatic right until the very end. It ended up that Chris Burton, who is a favourite to defend his series title here this weekend, actually activated a frangible device out on course, which gave him 11 penalties, pushed him down to 3rd, and gave Tim Price his first win at the level. So it is a huge moment for the series as well, because that did cost him points. It meant Janelle Price picked up more points. So let's take a look at how that series leaderboard is looking at the halfway stage of the competition. Chris Burton did extend his lead at the top of the leaderboard, but not by as many points. And actually the big news here that he has withdrawn Lawtown Chloe before the start of dressage because the horse hasn't been quite right since travelling. That means that Janelle Price, Bill Levitt, Sarah Cohen all in with a very big chance of picking up good points here. And of course, our 3 leg winners already this year, Laura Collett at Chats with Michael Young in Wiesbaden, Tim Price a few weeks ago in Arville, are the ones that can really challenge for good points here. So that is how things are shaping up. Now, Blythe, you've worked with Janelle many a time. You've been on teams with her. She is a very cool cookie under pressure, but I feel like this is her weekend.
Well, it could well be. It's a new horse for Janelle, but he's a very solid performer and jumper, and she's had a couple of nice runs on him now, so I think she's ready for the challenge.
And in terms of the other contenders, we've got the likes of Sarah Cohen, Bill Levitt, both well placed here after the dressage. They can really overhaul Chris Burton as well, put the pressure on him for the remaining 2 legs.
Yep, they've got off to a very good start, and both horses and riders are established combinations. They know each other really well, and they always post a very solid performance, so they're right in the hunt.
and we'll be looking forward to it. And of course, our 3 leg winners, Tim Price, Laura Collett and Michael Young, have all topped the podium so far this year, could get big points here this weekend. There's lots of ways that you guys at home can get involved. Let's go and say a very good morning to Dermot Echo Ratings Corner and find out more.
Good morning, Nicole. Well, look, of course, one of the big things that SAP have been bringing to eventing is all about how to get the fans involved. We saw it yesterday with spectator judging, and lots more chances today in spectator judging to see which pole is the most likely to come down. Again, if you're playing Echo Rating Stacks, one of the first questions we have in here is around Tom McEwen. CHF Coolizer has only knocked 2 poles in his entire international career. This is going to be his 10th international run. Is he going to keep all the poles up to date? The questions are loaded. Don't forget, this afternoon, of course, we're going to have SAP trackers all over the course. Again, these are all contributing to the Fan League points. 75 points for every question you can get right.
Well, I hope that you play along at home. I hope you can build your stack higher than I can build mine, because my track record isn't great. But if you want to play along, you can find all of those in the App Store. And you can play along. There's the chance to win a branded Event Rider Masters water bottle. You just have to spot the Event Rider Mastersbury, the Wilbury Wonder Pony, which is hidden somewhere in the broadcast. So if you spot it, make sure you get in touch at Event Rider Masters on social media. And of course, if you want to get involved in between legs as well, you can do. Just join the Event Rider Masters Platinum Club. There's lots of behind the scenes content, exclusive access as well, and 2 very exciting yard visits coming up. One with Laura Collett on the 23rd of July and one with Bill Levitt, who's on the podium position here at the moment on the 11th of August. And for more information, go to the website eventridermasters.tv. But the action here got underway yesterday with the dressage, the first of the 3 phases of competition. It really is the triathlon of equestrian sport. Let's see what happened.
Haras De Jardy sets the stage for leg 4 of the Event Rider Masters, as no less than 30 elite combinations representing 8 different nations line up at this pivotal point in the 2019 series.
Well, Alcatraz was a new horse to me last year. He's stepped up to this level just recently. He did a fairly good job in Arville, I think, and we learnt a lot from that. We've just tweaked a few things, and hopefully we'll put in a better performance here and feature a little bit higher up the leaderboard on the final day.
Pebbles, quick look, won at Bramham. She posted a fantastic cross-country round there. At Arville, for whatever reason, she wasn't with me. She seems to be on great form, so let's hope we can get past fence 5 this time.
Day 1 and the dressage got underway in front of Jardy's beautiful orangery, the world's best hungry to get their competition off to a winning start. Most capped ERM competitors Bill Levitt and Shannondale Titan once again showed off their dressage pedigree with a fantastic score of 25.3, third after this opening test. Gemma Tattersall and Quick Look arrive in Jardy as Equi-Ratings favourites, and the combination didn't disappoint. An excellent test earned the pair 25.1 from the judges and second on the overnight leaderboard. But the standout test of the day was Colonel Thibaut Villette and King de Brio.
The contact is beautiful.
It is going to be France that go to the top of the leaderboard. Huge round of applause from the home crowd.
The duo scored an outstanding 23.2 in front of the home crowd, handing the French rider the leg 4 lead going into Showjumping.
Well, let's take a look at that leaderboard after the first of the 3 phases. This is how things are shaping up. Thibaut Villette, King de Brio on the podium at Chatsworth in 2016, 23.2, just ahead of Gemma Tattersall and Quick Look in second. Bill Levitt, a podium position for him at the moment with Shannondale Titan. If he can leave the poles up, he will be pushing for that time across the country. A little bit further down, Emily King, Brookley, good test from them. Likewise, Sarah Cohen and Treason. Laura Collett still in the hunt with De Capo as well inside the top 10. Just 1 pole covering first through to 7th, 2 poles covering the top 20. It is exceptionally tight. Izzy Taylor, Spring Power 28.3, a very good performance from that horse in the first phase. And Janelle Price, real improvement with Gravine.ev, of course, currently sitting second in the series and looking for more series points. And a little bit further on down the order, Karim Leguag, watch out for him in the jumping phases. Punch de l'Esque at 32.5, a little bit off the pace, but close enough to challenge. And he could still put in very strong performance, particularly in the cross country, an excellent record here in Jardy. So that is how things stand after the first of the phases. Blythe Tate was in the studio with us yesterday. Blythe, just a word on our leader, Thibaut Villette. He was one of the favourites coming into the competition, particularly in this first phase. What were your thoughts on his test?
Definitely my leader. I thought he was an impressive test. It was very forward, very smooth, no mistakes, but full of expression. So I think very, very nice test.
And Bill Levitt, of course, he's currently sitting in third. He'll be looking for good series points here, Bill.
Yeah, well, as I said before, he always posts a solid performance, and it was another good performance yesterday. He's right in touch.
He is right in touch. Well, one of the tests that stood out for me, I'd been really looking forward to seeing them before the start of the competition, Emily King and Brookley. The horses had some time off from competition, and it's been quite a rocky road for this special combination.
As a kid, I've always said I wanted to be world number one, Olympic champion, Rolex Grand Slam winner, the whole shazam. So I'm sticking to that, and it's ridiculously hard, but I'm going to keep my goals set high and keep working hard. I first started riding, I think, before I could walk. It's my main passion. I live and breathe it, wake up every day wanting to do it. And I've grown up obviously around the horses my whole life, with Mum being who she is, and she never forced it upon me or was like a pushy horsey mum. I've loved it from the start, and it's never crossed my mind to do anything else. I was lucky enough to go to Beijing, Athens and London Olympics. It's amazing to have had an insight to that before having the pressure sort of personally. I mean, it's going to take a while to get remotely close to Mum's accolades, but I will try, exactly. You've got to enjoy the good times when they happen, because with the horses they are ridiculously, unpredictable. So just keep smiling. I think it's a very solid piece of advice from her. I'd say those two horses, Mr. Hi-Ho and Brookley, were my first two top horses to take me from, novice up to the top. But Brookley, my first horse to ride at 5-star, and first horse to go to badminton. So I think he'd be, don't tell the others, but I think he'd be the most special. He has quite an unusual jumping technique, and if he is in a bit of a sticky situation at a fence, if I haven't got a good distance on the jump, he would stop if you weren't perfect, and he would have an occasional fall. I had to ride very well for it to happen, which is it makes you definitely have to get your act together, and that's what taught me a huge amount. But along the way we did have some heavy fall. Had a heavy fall at the Junior Europeans, and then the waterfall at badminton. And I think that's also a huge part of becoming a professional rider, is you're bound to have these big falls, and it's mentally getting through them. I think personally that's the hardest thing. It's just a mental game, so you have to just really try and be on top of it. So it took me a while, but I'm back on now, I hope.
She is a very exceptionally talented young lady. Big shoes to fill, but she is very much forging her own path in the eventing world, and we'll look forward to seeing her progress here this weekend, Emily King and Brookley. Now, as we head towards the show jumping, it takes place in the arena just behind me, a few minutes away from the start. First horse coming in around 10 minutes time. Blythe, let's just look at the course and what is in store for our riders, because you've been out there, you've walked it. Talk us through it.
Well, I think it's a long course for a start. It's quite well spread out, but it is technical. There are some very difficult lines. It starts out straight away at the beginning, a tall vertical, and then there's a big distance to number 2 in Oxa. And then the first line, 3 to 4, is a bending line that gives you options. You can go direct on a forward 5 strides, or on the outside line with a bending 6. Around to a rollback at 5, which is a tall vertical, and then on to the treble, which is an even 2 in 1 strides. Nothing too much in itself, but it's related to the first option on the course, which is 7. You can go inside to the planks on a bending 6 strides, or outside to a vertical, but then you have to go around fence number 1, which is going to take time if you go that way. 8 to 9 to 10, in my opinion, is the most difficult line on the track. Again, bending, and in the first section, I think you need to add to be able to be forward to 10, and then down the last line, 11 to 12, There's 9 strides between the two, but they're quite well apart, so it's important to not let the horses get too flat for the last fence.
It'll be interesting to see if riders are chasing the clock as well. 78 seconds is the time that has been set by our ground jury as things stand at the moment. Blythe, you think it's going to be tough here?
I think it'll have some influence. I think there'll be some faults, but it's such a quality field that I'm expecting some clear rounds as well.
Well, we'll watch this space, and we're going to ask Echo Ratings for a prediction on that a little bit later on, because I'm sure they will be able to tell us just how many we can be expecting. But of course, we are creeping ever closer to the action now, just at some 9 or 8 minutes before the first horse goes into the arena. I think it's time we went down on the ground and took a closer look.
Yes, not long now. The last few riders, Nicole, just having a look around the course. I've managed to bag one, Bill Levitt. Bill, what do you make of the course?
It's very open. Early on, there's a lot of galloping, so it's quite clever. You know, it gets your horse a bit open, which then can mean they can make a little bit up too much ground to fences. So after that, it starts to get more technical. It's a huge arena here. I think last year it was a little more compact, but it seems like it's a bit more open this year.
Now talk to me about the fence we've got behind us. This is Wilbury Wonder Pony, and it's part of a sort of combination that's quite complicated, isn't it?
Yeah, you're sort of nearly a bit over halfway through the track. You've got a bit of a rollback here, which can sometimes make it a little more difficult to find your correct distance. And then you've got coming across here towards the stand, you'd have, you know, a good open 7 strides, but it's not getting too open and taking one out, or, you know. And then the trick after that is you've got probably a slower 7 strides to the double. So if you get too free down into that, over that vertical into the double, you might have the out of the double. So he's asked a question here of lengthening and then the ability to shorten and have your horse careful coming out of the double. So
okay. Come with me. Let's have a look at this option we've got over here, because this is the Event Rider Masters option. You've got poles, well, a vertical on one side, and you've got planks on the other. What are you going to go with, Bill?
My horse, I normally take the planks. He's a little bit slow in the air. In other words, he hangs in the air a bit, and so that's why it's quite difficult to get the time on him. It's a real advantage because he keeps shape over a fence, but so I always have to take the quicker option if I can. So I'll come down to the planks for sure, yeah.
Okay, so coming off Wilbury Wonder Pony, we then go to 9, which is over here, A and B. So Bill, you're talking about having maybe an extra stride here?
No, I can't afford to add strides anywhere, so I have to move up early in the distance and then keep it a little bit closed at the back end of the distance. So I've got to sort of make up ground to then support towards the end of the distance.
It's a long old track and 78 seconds. Do you think it's going to be doable?
Well, we're all sitting there over the first few horses and just seeing how the course is riding. I mean, I know last year it was really tight. We were all sort of, wow, that's a tight time. So you couldn't hang around anywhere. So, yeah, I thought the last leg in Arville was, you know, hard to get, and I assume this time will be hard to get as well.
Okay, well, best of luck, Bill. Thanks for talking to us.
No worries, thank you.
Well, Bill currently in a podium position. He'll be looking to protect that a little bit later on. Let's take a look at the running order. This is how combinations are coming forward. Anna Katharina Vogel, DSP Quintana P, one of my ones to watch in the jumping phases, are going to give us a really good indication from first off. Karam Leguag, Punch to Lesk as well, one to keep an eye on. And of course, the reverse order show jumping means that those in the lead will be coming as last to go. Nicolas Touzon, the 2003 European champion in this middle part of the rounds, and Michael Young, Janelle Price, Maxime Livio, the big names keep on coming. The top 10 running in reverse order of merit: Laura Collett and Tim Price will be the first of those. All the way down, every penalty will count, because just one pole covers first through to 7th, 2 poles cover the top 20, and Thibaut Villette, King de Brio, will be the last to go in the show jumping. They don't have a pole in hand over second place Gemma Tattersall. She'll be looking to put the pressure on him, but can she do it? It is going to be tough, we know, in the show jumping. And the show jumping here in Jardy has been a bit of a mixed bag over the last couple of years. Let's go to Echo Ratings and Derm to find out more.
As you say, Nicole, it's been a really mixed bag. So rather than just going straight into the numbers, because we'll go to those in a moment. 1 year very low, next year very high. One of the things that we've been doing in the off-season is working with SAP and all their predictive analytics technology to be able to see, okay, if we were to plug in everything we know about eventing, all of the past performances of every horse, every rider, everything we know about Jardy, how would this competition play out? Only once from the 11 competitions that we have now run this at has the winner come from outside of the top 5. Yesterday we had Gemma, Emily, Laura Collett, Maxime Livio before the dressage. How did that play out? After the dressage phase, Gemma Tattersall remains the favourite to take this. What's interesting, and we'll come on to it in a moment, from the 11 winners we've had here since 2008, 4 have been leading after dressage. But when you look here, you can see that Thibaut, despite that brilliant dressage test, one of the top 5 that we've ever seen at the venue, he isn't yet a favourite to take this. Gemma remains the favourite, and the big winner yesterday, actually Bill Levitt. So Bill was one of the standouts, and he's now moved all the way up 11%, joined with Maxime Livio. These are your 3 favourites for the overall win. But let's look at the show jumping. We're going into it right now. These guys are asking me for a prediction. 2 years ago, 8%, the toughest that we ever saw in an event rider masters. Last year, 31%, completely different. Look, I think there's a couple of horses going in here early, which I think should give us a really good read. These are your top rated jumpers in the field, and you can see here, Quintana P, first in there, makes this top 9. Quick Look is in there, so you know she's going to be like Gem's going to be wanting to keep the pressure on. But you can see here, there's certainly I would say Tom McEwen early, Kareem is early, 3 probably in the first 8 or 9. I think if they jump clear, we're probably looking at something like 20% and above. I would say probably you're looking at maybe 7. I would say would be a good number here. But these are your ones. Quintana first in, very good indicator of how this is going to play out. You've also got Kareem, top rated in the field, very good indicator. And Tom McEwen on Coolizer, 2 poles from 9 international. So a good jumping record until now, also a very good indicator. Very difficult to say this is going to be, whether there's loads of poles down or whether it's a really easy one. Right now I'm kind of, sitting on the fence a little bit, which I don't like doing. So I'm feeling somewhere in between. We'll know very early. So that's very first round, I think, gives us the first indicator. But maybe certainly by Kareem we get the really strong indicator. At the moment I will say 7. I hope these guys are going to be as brave and put up their predictions as well. But I'm going to say 7. I think it'll be a reasonable day. To go back for a moment because it's important, Gemma Tattersall remains the favourite for the overall. Bill Levitt, Shannondale Titan, and I would mention here, just off this, so 10%, another big winner from yesterday with a brilliant dressage test, Sarah Cohn and Treason. They're obviously very involved in the series, but if Sarah Cohn and Treason jump a clear round here, they will shoot up on the prediction centre because of what's to come this afternoon. So that would be one of the key show jumping rounds to look forward to. Can Treason keep the poles up? If he can, I think there is a massive chance for them this afternoon. For now, Nicole, 7 clear rounds is what I'm going to give you, and the very first one is going to be a really big indicator.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing who can deliver here in the show jumping, the second of the 3 phases. Blythe Tate, the double world champion, in the studio with me. And Blythe, Dam has put up 7 clear rounds as his Echo Ratings prediction. Could I push you to make a number?
Well, I don't always agree with Derm, but I think he's about right. I think there will be a half a dozen.
Half a dozen. Okay, 6 or 7. I'm actually going to say that I think it's going to be a little bit tougher. I'm going to say 5. But just to be a little bit different, Bill Levitt there, we spoke to him a little bit earlier on. Big day for him with Shannondale Titan because he's tied equal 3rd in the series, and that is our dressage leader, Thibaut Villette, King de Brio, one of the most experienced horses in the field. Izzy Taylor, picture of concentration on her course walk. Blythe, what goes through riders' mind in a course walk when they come forward? We'll come to that in just a second because we're actually about to get underway with the live action. It is Anna Katarina Vogel and DSP Quintana P, who are going to be our Pathfinders. Echo Ratings have put them up as one of the very good jumpers in the field, and they were a combination that I actually picked out on the Eventing podcast as ones to watch coming into the competition in the jumping phases. Her Event Rider Masters debut, only 22 years of age. But Blythe, talk us round this course, because Anna Katarina is going to give us a really good indication early doors.
Yes, and I think we'll find out a little bit about the time, whether it's an issue or not. As I said before, it's quite an open track, quite a long track, but there are technical elements as well. I personally think on some of the bending lines that the extra stride might be the way to go, but we heard from Bill earlier saying that he's
Can't
concerned
afford
about
it.
time. Yeah. Very square oxer at number 2, so the horses have to be ready early on. She took the forward 5 strides and looked very comfortable.
Oh, and the vertical at 5 goes for Anna Katarina Vogel.
It's quite a fragile fence at number 5, so the horses have to be careful. Nice even 2 and 1 stride at the treble.
Got him fairly close to the Event Rider Masters planks there, Blythe.
Very close, but it worked. She did the outside 8 strides there, which I think would be my preference as well, because then you can be forward to this double, which is reasonably long. And then she rolls back to the last line.
And actually, her time is looking pretty tight. She's going to be in danger of a few time penalties as well here as she comes down to the final oxer. And Anna Katarina Vogel clears it, so just the 1 pole down, but 3 seconds over the time. 1.2 time penalties to add for her, 5.2 in total. Finishes on 42.5. What was your indication of that time, Blythe?
Well, I think maybe, I think most of them will go more forward than that. I mean, as you say, Anna Katarina is not as experienced as some of the riders to come. She picked up a very nice rhythm, but I think next time she would probably go a little more forward. I think the time's going to be achievable.
You think the time will be achievable? Well, Anna Katarina Vogel first to go, picks up 1.2 time penalties. And we can just see where she had her problems in a second. The horse is generally a very good jumper, but this was the pole that came down.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's not a lot to help the horses at that fence, and I think maybe she was just a little weeny bit too forward.
Well, Anna Katarina Vogel completes the second of the phases here. 5.2 penalties to add for her. And that was the first of the Echo ratings ones to watch, as rated to be a very good jumper in the field. Now it is a man who jumped clear in our field just a few weeks ago in the show jumping with this horse. It is Nicholas Bashkora and Lord Sostakovich. 35.5 at their dressage score. This is a horse that really improved in that first phase.
Concerned for Nicholas's time already, because that is the trap that you could fall into, a bit cautious between 1 and 2, and you really need to go on the inside line and go forward. 5 strides there's riding very easy.
Turns down to the treble combination. And that'll be the Event Rider Masters planks. Do you think we'll see anybody taking the alternative here, Blythe?
I don't really, because I think that the inside line is very jumpable, and it will save a good second, maybe 2 seconds. So I think most will choose the inside line. And there you go, he just took 7 strides in, Anna Katarina took 8, so the options are there.
I feel like his second half of his round has just picked up the tempo slightly, but again, the clock is looking a little bit tricky as he comes down the final line. He's still got the last to jump, and it's going to be exceptionally tight. Nicholas Bashkora, Lord Sostakovich, and they're going to sneak just inside the time, and they give us a clear round number 1. They were clear in Arville, they're clear again here, and a masterclass from the young German rider.
Lovely clear around there, beautiful. Allez, un petit joli temps pour Nicolas Bashkora et Lord Sostakovich. Donc il est dans 77 secondes, 52 centièmes, tout juste dans les 78.
Well, Lord Sostakovic, Nicholas Bishkora give us clear round number 1, just sneaking inside the time allowed. As next to come forward, the sole Polish rider in the field. It is Mateusz Kemper and Grand Supreme. Poland, of course, secured that Olympic qualifying team spot at Babaroko in their qualifying competition in May, a little bit earlier on this year. This man was part of that team on that occasion. And this is a horse that has had some good results at this level previously, made their senior debut for the Polish team at Stragon Home European Championships in 2017. 35.4. Now this is how close it is, because Nicholas Bishkora 35.5. So Blythe, it is exceptionally tight. He can't afford even a time penalty to stay ahead of Nicholas.
Oh, I think there's something like only 2 rails between first and between 20 horses. So clear round here is vital.
It wouldn't be a horse that is always the cleanest in the show jumping, and unfortunately an early pole falls.
And I think that is the trap at fence number 2. It's very square. There's no warm-up available. They have to be on the job right from the word go.
And the vertical at 5 goes as well. So 2 down so far for Mateusz. And it's proving expensive. Those 3 penalties actually dropping below Nicholas and below Anna Katarina.
And Mateusz goes to the outside line there, and you can see how it is more time consuming.
But is it now a case of actually leaving the poles up, play it safe?
So. I would think so.
Well, swinging back round to the final line, the time is definitely going to be an issue as well for Matthew. And the clock will turn red. 0.4 of a penalty for every second over that time allowed. 16 jumping penalties, 20 jumping penalties as the last goes as well, and 7 seconds over the time. So 22.8. That was 2.8 time penalties they added, and that drops them a couple of places on the leaderboard. But an expensive round for Mateusz, and he'll be disappointed with that on his Event Rider Masters debut. And I think that was a tough round for him, because the second went and he just was on the back foot.
Exactly, and with these bending lines, he wanted to do the extra stride to try and be careful, and that's where the time played such a significant part.
Well, an expensive round. 3 combinations have gone, and we've 1 clear round from them. News in from the ground jury is that the time remains 78 seconds, so we will not be seeing any change to the time. Well, this young man is one of the top riders in the world. He's currently ranked number 4 in the world rankings. It is Tom McEwen, and he comes forward with CHF Coolizer. 35.1 there, dressage owned by Vicky Bates and David Myers. This 9-year-old mare by Womanizer. Horse that has only rolled, as Derm said, 2 poles in her international career. And the 5 seems to be coming up really easily between 3 and 4.
Yeah, I mean, you can go quite direct. It is a bending line, but if you ride a straight line, you jump across the SAP Oxer a little bit, but it still makes the distance nice. You can see this mare is, nice and careful. She doesn't like to touch the fences.
Tom said yesterday in his interview that in a year's time this mare is going to be really, really world class, because still inexperienced at the level at the moment. But she's doing a good job in there, Blythe.
Yep, and he went on the inside line there, so he did the 7 strides, and that saves a bit of time. Just the last line to go.
Watching his clock, because he just is going to be very tight. CHF Coolizer Tom McEwen needs to push on down to the final fence, and they clear it. The time is just marginally sneaking inside, but it gives us clear round number 2, and it goes to the young man who was on the podium at Chatsworth, finished in 2nd place there with Figaro Van Het Brooks off. That was pretty close to his time, Blythe, but well, the first clear round came courtesy of Nicholas Bashkora, and he's with Hannah.
Nicholas, you made that look very easy.
Thank you very much. No, I mean, I've got a very good horse, and he's easy to ride, and he's a very good show jumper, so I'm really happy. Thank you.
We didn't think it was going to be easy. It's a long, old course, but you seem to just eat it up.
No, I mean, when I walked it this morning, I was a bit worried, but I don't know, it was really good in there, and I could just keep going, and I mean, the time was easy as well, so yeah, and I'm really happy. I mean, Tom made it look easy as well just now, so.
Okay, good luck this afternoon.
Cheers, thank you.
Well, 2 clear rounds so far. If you are just joining us here at Haras De Jardy, then a very warm welcome to you. Blythe Tate in the studio with me. 4 combinations have gone and 2 have been faultless. Now it is Tom Crisp with Liberty and Glory, this homebred mare who is a huge part of Team Crisp, was 6th at Poe in the 5-star last year. Show jumped clear on that occasion, 33.8 their dressage score. Tom absolutely delighted with the mare in that first phase yesterday. And this is a horse, Blythe, that really does appear to want to leave the fences up.
Yeah, and she's very quick off the ground, jumps up nicely. Quite a compact mare that should find this phase fairly comfortable.
She does love the jumping phases. So careful at the Event Rider Masters planks at 7.
Chose the 8 strides, which gave him much more of a straighter approach to the double, and I think would be my favourite option.
And the time looks to be okay, although he's just added a stride. Tom Crisp, Liberty and Glory, and they clear the last to go to clear round number 3, faultless in this phase. Tom Crisp, absolutely brilliant. And Liberty and Glory will go forward to the cross country on her dressage score of 33.8. Well, we've had 5 combinations now in the show jumping. Let's go and see how the numbers are stacking up in Eck-Rating's corner.
The numbers are stacking up well, Nicole. 3 from 5. This is going to be, I mean, we've still got lots of the big combinations to come. We've still got, when I put up this list earlier, we had only, Quintana has had a pole, but there's 9 more on here who I would be saying, based on what we've seen so far, shouldn't have a problem here. Even let's say we get 7 of those, we've already had 3, I expect more. This is, if we're asking the question earlier, I said 2017 was 8% and it was 31% in 2018. I would be suggesting we're right back up in this 30 plus area. I think the show jumping is proving at the moment to be one which certainly the polls can stay up. About 9, I would say, in the field still to come who should be keeping the polls up. I would say maybe in total 12 to 14 who could do it here.
That would be a huge number of clears, and this man would dearly love to put one on the board. It is Sydney Deflin, who was disappointed with his dressage yesterday with Trésor Mail. This one of the more experienced horses in the field, but he was a little bit frustrated with that first phase performance, so he needs to put that behind him now and go into the jumping phases. How difficult is it, Blythe? You know, you've had that disappointment in the first phase, to put that behind you, and all of a sudden you've got to come out then.
It's not easy, but you do have to do it. I did have a little chat with Sydney when we were walking the course, and he was quite frustrated because his horse is very capable of a good test, but he is a stallion, he has a mind of his own, and it just didn't come together yesterday. But good start so far in this round.
And he's a man that's learnt from the very best, hasn't he? Because he was based with Mark Todd for a little while there as well.
And he's experienced himself as well, so he knows that there's going to be the odd disappointment.
A disappointment at the vertical at 5, because we see that fall for the third time, and I think part of the treble combination goes as well. So this is proving expensive now for Trésor Mail. And 3 poles down, 12 to add. It drops him a considerable number of places on the leaderboard, some 4 places on the leaderboard. The time is going to be looking fairly snug as well. So Sydney Dufresne, Trésor Mail coming round to the final line. It's 11 to 12. The time is certainly going to be a problem. The clock will turn red, and 0.4 of a penalty for every second over that will quickly add up. But he clears the last, and actually 5 seconds over. So some 2-time penalties, 12 jumping, 14 to add in total. And I think it's safe to say, Blythe, Sydney won't be too impressed with his
weekend, I'm afraid.
Won't be too impressed with his show jumping either. But make no mistake, this is a combination that actually have a huge amount of experience, part of the French team who won team bronze at the World Equestrian Games in Tryon last year, and he'll be disappointed with that.
I do think that fence 5 could come down quite a bit this competition. It's quite fragile, it's like out of a turn.
It's already proven the most influential. I think we've seen it fall some 3 times already, and Sydney falling victim to it as well. Next to come forward, it is one of 2 Swiss combinations in the field, Tiziana Rollini and Tout Bleu de Rare, 32.7 their starting score. And this is a horse that did a really sweet dressage test yesterday. And ones that I'm sure will be looking forward to being part of the Swiss team at the European Championships, looking to impress selectors here. The SAP Ox are a bit of a rattle there, Blythe.
Yeah, which is surprising because it jumped the first 3 fences very, very well, actually. Maybe just a little rub that it needed to remind to stay careful and focused. That was nice. She's gone for the outside line, so she's going to need to move up a little bit now to make up a bit of lost time. Well, the
Wilbury Wonder Pony Oxer goes, and that drops her place on the leaderboard behind Nicholas Bashkora, Lord Sostakovich. Time is also looking fairly tricky as she comes down the final line. So Tiziana Rollini and Tout Bleu de Rare is going to pick up 0.8 time penalties as well. 4.8 to add in total. That sees her drop down to 26. So 3 places on the leaderboard, but she seems pretty happy with that place. She was almost unlucky to have that pole.
Yeah, she did go to the outside line at fence 7 and then had to move up, and whether that just made the horse a little bit flat and just changed the rhythm a little bit, but you know, a good round on the whole.
Well, well, some 7 combinations have done their test, and this next one is somebody who Echo Ratings put up as one of the best jumpers in the field. It is Karen Florent Leguag and Punch Teleska, 32.5. Their dressage yesterday, but this combination very much excel in the jumping phases. They've some good form here at Jardy, have had top 10 finishes on 2 previous occasions here, back in 2015 and 2017 as well, and a horse that has had a good amount of results at the very top level of the sport. So hugely experienced, and was unlucky to miss out on the World Equestrian Games last year through injury. But the European Championships in Le Moulin coming up, French selectors watching on. And just looked to have sort of lost a little bit of rhythm, Blythe, almost changing legs behind going into the second.
Yeah, to both first fences actually, and the horse is a little head high, but he'll get him to settle as he goes. And I think they're into their stride now.
It almost seems to be the way the horse prefers to go. I mean, it certainly isn't impacting the jumping. Ooh! Had to regroup themselves slightly there. A trip, but carry him quickly back on track. And this is one of the quicker rounds we've seen so far. Karim Leguargue, Punch to Lesk. The French crowd would dearly love to see him put in a solid performance. As he comes down to the final fence on a clear round, he just steps up the rhythm slightly. And he clears the last. It is clear round number 4. And he goes to the top of the live podium. Karim Leguargue and Punch to Lesk absolutely faultless in the show jumping phase, and he will go forward on that score of 32.5. Now though, let's go back to Hannah.
I ride it.
So Tiziana, how was your round? Not great because it wasn't clear.
I am very happy with my horse, but I have one fault. I take the option and then I try to go fast, and maybe too fast, and then he have the fault after the turn. Yes, it's pain, but I'm happy.
Okay, best of luck this afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Well, Tiziana has been a real pleasure to watch in her Event Rider Masters debut. Absolutely adores Two Bleu de Rouet, and we'll look forward to seeing them in the jumping phases. Now it is another Frenchman. It is Sébastien Cavaillon and Sarah Dargouche, 31.8 in 21st position after the first of the phases, and well in touch with the top of the leaderboard. A clear round here puts the pressure on. The clubhouse leader is Karim Leguargue and Punch to Lesk on 32.5, so can't afford to have any poles down to stay ahead of Karim. And that's the thing, Blythe, when the leaderboard is this tight, every single mistake is so expensive.
Absolutely, it just adds that little extra dimension of pressure. And he's fallen foul of the second fence, the square oxer.
Now this vertical at 5, Blythe, we've seen it jump a little bit better in the last few horses. Do you think word has got back to the riders?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think they are learning how to ride it. They just got to keep the horses together and protect them from the fence a little bit. The second fence is also being influential, and I think, again, the horses have to be very ready. They can't warm up into the round. They have to be on the go right from the word go. He added the stride there, which should give him a nicer line to this.
The time looks to be okay. There's certainly not masses in hand. Sébastien Cavaillon, it'll depend on how quickly he comes down this final line, but it's proving expensive, and he's just taken a check. He's going to sneak inside, but 2 poles down for Sarah Dargouche, and that is costly on the leaderboard, 39.8. He drops down 5 places. The French selectors watching on, of course. The European Championships a little bit later on this year. But do you think he was perhaps just mindful of the clock ticking, Blythe, and just took a risk at that penultimate fence?
Possibly, but I think if they cut the corner from 1 to 2, go on the inside line, then they don't have to worry about the time from there on, and maybe he didn't do that, and then he thought he had to make up time at the end.
Sébastien Cavaillon and Sarah Dargouche, that was the second fence falling for them as 8 to add to their total score. So Karim Leguargue, Tom Crisp, CHF Coolizer, Tom McEwen, Nicholas Bushkora, the 4 clear rounds so far, all moving up the leaderboard courtesy of them. Raphael Cochet next to come forward. Sherazade de Louvière, 30.8 their starting score. Again, can't afford a pole to stay ahead of Karim Leguargue. And this a horse yesterday, Blythe, in the dressage that just had such a sweet test, and very much you can see in the jumping as well.
Yeah.
Wants to please. She really wants to do her best.
Very much so, and I think he started out exactly how he should have started out. He rode very positive from 1 to 2. Now he can just settle into his rhythm and pay attention to clearing the fences.
And riding in a bitless bridle, is that something you would often see in the jumping?
Not often in eventing, definitely in show jumping, but you know, some horses go so much better without a bit in their mouth.
File is clear so far. So he makes the turn back towards the final line. The time looks to be okay at the moment. Just needs to not hang around in between these two final fences. But Raphael Cochet, can he be clear round number 5? Sherazade de Louvière just sneaks inside the time, and it is. They remain in a top 20 position going forward to the cross country a little bit later on. And actually, Blythe, that was one of the most accomplished
Very
clears.
nice. I mean, it was very even from start to finish. No, very tidy round.
She was very careful. You could just tell she wanted to leave the poles up. She was loving her job, which is just great to see.
Makes it so much easier when they want to leave the fences up.
Absolutely. Well, they had a rub at the first, which just proved a little bit of luck on their side. Sometimes you do need that little bit of luck on side. And Raphael Cochet will be in the top 20 going forward to the cross country a little bit later on. So 5 clear rounds so far, the highest percentage rate here in 2018, I should say, 31% clear. But it does mean that any penalties are very costly, and it puts the pressure on those still coming. So Nicolas Touzon next to come forward. Vendée Globe Jack, 30.6 their starting score. We've gone from a bitless bridle to a double bridle in the show jumping phase.
All range.
Clear of the vertical at 5, so he swings back right-handed to the combination on 2 strides, and 1 stride between the second 2 elements. Taking the direct route, the Event Rider Masters planks, no problems at all there.
Those planks are sitting on flat cups, but they, at this stage, they're jumping them well.
Work hard in their combination, Blythe.
It is quite long in there. I mean, it's a very positive 1 stride, but yeah, he did have to ride strongly once he landed.
Nicolas Touzon just keeping an eye on that clock, because he's going to be very close, and Vendée Globe Jack actually just sneaks into a time penalty. So 0.4 to add. He holds a penalty score of 31.0. Will just drop the 1 place behind Raphael Cochet and Sherazade de Louvière, who will move up into 19th at worst. But still a very good clear round from Nicolas Touzon and Vendée Globe Jack for France, and the French really dominating here in the show jumping so far. Excellent performances from them, and just a solitary time penalty to add for Nicolas Touzon, Vendée Globe Jack. So we are approaching the halfway stage shortly of the show jumping here in the Event Rider Masters. Leg 4, Haras De Jardy. And reverse order show jumping means that Thibaut Villette, King de Brio, our leaders after the first phase, will be the last to come forward. York Kerbal now comes forward with Yozera's Entertain You. 30.1 their starting score, in 18th position after the first phase, and again cannot afford a pole down to stay ahead now of Raphael Cochet, Sherazade de Louvière. And you really got the impression of the angle there of the SAP op.
Yeah, and they're all choosing to ride the direct line, and it seems to be working out nicely, so I think that's the way to go. Nice big horse, this horse, but he's careful with it.
problems with the Event Rider Masters planks, videoing the round, making sure they can capture it at home. It's still looking good on the time. Clear jumping so far. Sarah's Entertain You. This could see him move well up in touch. Remember, less than 2 fences behind our leaders after the first phase. Just needs to watch the clock. Comes down to the last. Sarah's Entertain You, your Kerbal. Gonna sneak a time penalty perhaps. Yes, 0.4 to add. They hold their position though, 30.5. And we've just seen, Blythe, you know, we haven't seen anybody easily make the time. They've been very close to it.
Yeah, some of them have been just on the wrong side. But, you know, if they start out with a positive rhythm and keep going, they should be fine.
Well, we've 5 clear rounds on the board so far. Derm, how are the figures stacking up?
The clears are still stacking up. I mean, those 2 1-second rounds, those last 2 time penalties that we've seen in both of the last rounds, as you mentioned, Nicole, very influential. Playing stacks, that 1 second for Nicholas Touzon was a big stack buster. 90% of people had him for a clear, and that 1 second cost a lot of people. Barbary, 2017, 61%. That's the highest we've ever seen in an Event Rider Masters. We're currently at 42%. That's up there in the top 3 that we've ever seen in an Event Rider Masters leg. With all of these top combinations still to come, I'm saying 50-50. We could get up above the 50%. We could even hit Barbary 2017, 61%, which is the highest ever clear rate. A lot of talent still to come, a lot more clear rounds still to come, Nicole.
Well, next to come forward a man who scored a career personal best in the dressage here 12 months ago. That was with Zagreb on his way to victory. He comes forward now with Sarah Hughes' Alcatraz, a new ride for him last year, and a horse that only stepped up to the level this spring. But an excellent performance in the dressage yesterday, gave them a personal best at the level. And a horse that is normally very good in this phase. Competes a lot in the indoor derbies over the winter months. So far, so good over the first 4. Back to the vertical at 5. And then the combination here, Blythe, just talk us through it, because you need a lot of impulsion for it, but then you've got to get back for the planks.
I quite like the combination. It's very regular, very inviting, but it is related to fence number 7, so it does have an influence on what happens after the combination.
Alex Bragg clear so far as he comes back to the final line, just keeping a very close eye on the clock, because I think he's going to sneak a problem there. And he just doesn't take a pull coming down to the last. In fact, he sees a long one, and he needed to, because the time was tight. 0.4 of a penalty. It means he goes forward to cross country on 30.2, so he holds his position. But Alex Bragg, Alcatraz, just 1 second over the time. So the last 3 rounds have all just picked up a solitary time penalty. Let's go and hear from Hannah.
Jorg, a great round, just 1 time penalty. How was it? It's a huge horse that you're riding.
He jumped fantastic, and I make maybe 1 straight too much on the last line. That makes the second. Yeah.
He's very careful over the jumps.
Yeah. That's sometimes I must make more gallop. Why he jumped too high over the fences, then I lose time. Yeah, that's that's his jumping.
Okay, well, best of luck this afternoon, Jorg.
Thank you very much.
Well, your Kerbal was just the 1 second over the time. The rules, of course, changed last year, so just 0.4 of a penalty now for every second, or part second thereof, over the time in the cross country. As next to come forward, Arnaud Boiteau and Quoriano. 29.8. They were equal 16th with Alex Bragg and Alcatraz, but of course Alex actually just had that time penalty, so Arnaud can hold that position by himself with a clear round here. A horse that has good form here in Jardy, and certainly gives them plenty of air, Blythe.
I like the start of this round.
Do you think they're taking a little bit more time in the air, though? We heard York saying his horse actually, he had to be a little bit careful of the time because of the amount of time spent in the air.
Yeah, I mean, this is a nice, careful horse, but the word should be getting back now. If the last 3 riders have all had 1 time fault, you know, it's a very close competition. So I think this one, to me, he's going at a good speed. I think he'll be fine.
Well, we're 13th in the Event Rider Masters here 12 months ago, and actually, if memory serves me correctly, just picked up 1 solitary time penalty to add to their total score on that occasion. He moved on to the double combination, so Arnaud Boiteau and Coriano. Again, the time is looking very close. It comes down the final line, just the last to go, and I think he's going to sneak into time penalties. He clears the last, and actually 0.8 time penalties for Arnaud and 30.6. That just drops him below Alex Bragg and actually below your Kerbal and Yozera's Entertain You as well. So just proving a little bit costly there. The last 4 riders, Blythe, all picking up time penalties.
Yeah, I think it's unforgivable now because the riders should be very aware they've got to keep up to pace or they're going to have a time fault.
And he doesn't look too happy about that time fault. A little bit of a shake of the head from Arnaud Boiteau. Coriano just costing him 2 places on the leaderboard. The horse, such an incredible technique. Just meant that they wasted a little bit of time during their round, but still a faultless jumping performance, and they are still well in touch with the rest of the competition. As here is the man who won here 2 years ago. That was with Star Connection. Comes forward this time with Krivo Cooley, 29.3 their starting score, and we're into the top 15 now, so the reverse order show jumping.
This is a new horse for Michael, but one I believe he has really high hopes for. He believes it's a nice, talented horse.
It's ranked currently 18 in the world, a double Olympic champion. How difficult is it? You know, he's only had the horse since May, so they're still very much getting to know the mare.
Exactly. I mean, it's all about the future at this stage. I mean, he's here in a big competition like this, but it'll be the horse's first exposure at this level. But already, in my opinion, he's managed the time, and sure as he does,
the price.
A fence comes down.
Paying the price. The SAP Ox are falling for Michael Young, Krivo Cooley. That actually proves expensive. 6 places on the leaderboard, that costs him.
Very costly.
This line, I know, Blythe, you said it was the trickiest line in your opinion. Has it ridden as you expected?
Oh, it's ridden much better, to be honest. I thought it would cause more trouble because there is, very much an option there, but they all seem to be going on the inside forward, and I guess that is to do with the time.
Well, Michael Young, Krivo Cooley will be okay on the time, but they paid the price with that 1 pole down at the beginning of their round. The fence 4 fell for them, 33.3 the score they take forward to cross country, and that means that he will drop 6 places on the leaderboard. Well, we've got 5 clear rounds in the bank so far. If you are just joining us, some 14 combinations left to come forward in the show jumping here. Haras De Jardy. And here comes Janelle Price. Gravine Darev. And a new combination this season. Janelle really improving the dressage of the horse each time internationally so far this year. A personal best for them, 28.7. in 14th position coming forward, and of course in second place in the series, but Chris Burton not competing, which means Janelle wants the series points here this weekend. And actually, she needs to put in a clear round, would you say, Blythe, to really get those series points here?
Absolutely. I'm not going to put the commentators because of death on her, but this horse normally is a good jumper, so fingers crossed.
You've obviously ridden on teams with Janelle. Just give us an insight into how cool she is under pressure.
Well, very cool. I mean, one of Janelle's strengths is her determination and her focus, and she works hard behind the scenes in order to make sure that she's really well prepared.
Huge jump at the SAP Oxa at 4, swings back round to the vertical at 5. They had a pole down in Wiesbaden on their way to finishing 9th, jumped clear at Barbary last weekend before withdrawing. And a horse that's certainly very capable in this phase, Blythe.
Yes, definitely. This would be one of his stronger phases.
Janelle and Tim often found out in Spain in the spring on the Spanish Sunshine Tour, take a couple of lorry loads of horses out there, do some pure show jumping, get a little bit of sunshine I think as well. But she's got to watch the clock because the clock is looking very dangerous here. And Janelle Price, Gravine Darev come down to the final fence. They clear it well, but they're going to sneak a couple of time penalties, 0.8 time penalties to add. They hold their position, 29.5. But we saw with Michael Young, you know, he pushed for the time, he paid the price with a pole. Janelle almost just playing it a little bit safe to leave the poles up live.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the decision you have to make. You know, I do think there is scope here to make up time. There is a couple of rollbacks, so maybe not go quite so wide. But jumping clear is the important part.
Well, 0.8 of a penalty to add for Janelle Price and Gravine Darev. They hold their position on the live leaderboard, and I've no doubt that Janelle will be feeding back to husband Tim, who will see in a few horses' time that the time is exceptionally tight and he's going to have to kick on. Well, here is a man that on the Eck Ratings Eventing Prediction Centre coming into the event was in the top 5 win percentage chances, and it is Maxime Livio. Opium de Verrières, a horse that is one of the most experienced in the field actually. He was individually 11th at the World Equestrian Games in Tryon last year. The fences a lot of room, Blythe, does he? He's a very different jumper to sort of Janelle.
Yeah, he's not extravagant, but he knows what he's doing. And, you know, I thought the start was a little casual, but he's picked up now. As soon as I say that.
Oh, the planks go, which actually plummets him down the leaderboard slightly. So Janelle Price will move up a place. All getting towards the big series points. The time again is fairly snug. He's not got a lot of room. He needs to push on down to the final fence, otherwise he is going to pay the price. And the clock will be very close. Just sneaks over 0.4 of a time penalty as well. Maxime Livio, Opium de Verrières, 32.7, and that actually drops them some 7 places on the leaderboard, and you can just see how expensive it is now. So the lady who is the clubhouse leader is Janelle Price. She's with Hannah.
Janelle, the time was tight. You got 2 time faults, but all the poles stayed out.
Oh, look, I'm happy with that today. I didn't have the smoothest warm-up and wasn't really able to go in there and sort of just ride as I would have liked. But he jumped well. He's a great jumper and delighted to have a clear round.
Best of luck for this afternoon.
Thank you.
Well, Janelle Price is the one to beat at the moment, and it really is very close because there is nothing that really separates these combinations coming forward. Izzy Taylor the next up with Spring Power. It's a horse that had a couple of poles down at Chatsworth when on their way to finishing 10th a little bit earlier on this year, but in 12th position coming forwards, 28.3 their dressage score. And Izzy was on the podium here 12 months ago, finished in 3rd place with Be Touchable. Can she climb ever closer to that podium finish with a fast clear round in the show jumping? How much of a balance is it? You know, Blythe, we've seen people, Janelle was quite happy with those time penalties. It didn't actually cost her anything on the leaderboard. So how do we think riders are going to be playing it now? Playing it safe, getting time penalties, but leaving the poles up?
No, I don't think so, because it's so close now and we're getting into the business end of the thing, of the competition. I think that they're going to be wanting clear rounds.
They have to take the risk.
Absolutely.
A little bit off the SAP Oxa.
Well, she put a bit of a bend in, but still went on the 5 strides, so it did leave her a little bit off. But you know, talking about the pace in which she set out, I don't think she's going to have time faults, but she's paid the penalty, and again.
Actually, starting to get very expensive now. I think the final part of the combination stayed, so 3 down, but the planks go also. And Izzy Taylor and Spring Power having a little bit of a difference of opinion, should we say. Blythe, the horse just getting really free.
Yeah, not backing off the fence at all. He's sort of thinking cross-country a bit.
Well, those 4 poles are hugely costly for Izzy Taylor, and Spring Power will take her right out of contention. And she's got him back to her now, but the time penalties I think will clock up as well. So Izzy Taylor comes down to the last, and it is not the round she would have hoped for. 5 poles full. The last stays, but it is 0.4 for every time penalty over, and 5 seconds, so 2 time penalties to add to those 5 poles down, and 50.3. Izzy will not be too impressed with that round, and Blythe, there was a real difference of opinion with the horse in there, because she just unfortunately had to get the horse back to her.
Yeah, very disappointing for Izzy. The horse got strong, wouldn't back off the fences, and the round just didn't come together.
Well, Izzy Taylor, unfortunately, out of contention with Spring Power. That was where it all started to go a little bit wrong and unravel. But Izzy, such an accomplished jockey, and we've no doubt we'll see her back in the Event Rider Masters series with a good clear round in the show jumping soon. As next to come forward, a man who really impressed on his Event Rider Masters debut in Arville, finished 6th place there, had 1 pole down in the show jumping. It is Jurig Lecoz and Esprit de la Loge, and this is a horse that we actually commented on, Blythe, in Arville, because he has such an interesting bridle. It isn't a hackamore, it doesn't exert pole pressure, it is literally just a bitless bridle.
I've never seen this before, actually, so it'll be interesting. I mean, this is a horse I liked in the dressage. It looked as though it should jump with the way that he canted, but we'll find out.
Definitely jump, Blythe.
Yeah, definitely, but you could see that yesterday with the way the horse had a really nice canter, that you would have thought that jumping would have been easy for him.
I think this horse has gone on a lot of people's radar over the last few weeks.
Or is it a mare?
It's a gelding.
Are you on the spot?
I'm on the spot, but I'm pretty certain gelding. Yeah, definitely a gelding.
Gelding.
The time, I'm just keeping a close eye on that. Clear so far, Jurig Lecoz and Esprit de la Loge in the combination. Would be a horse that is normally a very good show jumper, and he's really just moved up the rhythm coming round to this final line, chasing that time allowed. He's just got to clear the last. It's been a while since we've had a clear round, and it's been a while since we've seen anyone inside the time. Jurig Lecoz, Esprit de la Loge, are they on for another top 10 finish here? He's absolutely delighted with that, and I think that is one of the better rounds that we've seen so far, Blythe.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it should be done. I mean, he picked a good rhythm. The horse is nice and careful. He didn't waste any time, didn't go wide on the corners, but took the time to jump the fences correctly.
Well, Jureg Lecoz and Esprit de la Loge will be in no worse than 11th, but they will very likely climb up into the top 10 with that faultless clear round in the show jumping. And keep an eye out for them this afternoon on the cross-country track as well, because they were quick in Arville. As next to come forward, Camille Lejeune, Tahina Desil. Camille, so experienced, has had some really good results with this horse as well. He's currently ranked number 57 in the world. This 12-year-old mare by Calvados, based in northern France, just north of Paris. Partner Sophie. 16th at Burley, 14th at Le Moulin last year. So a real 5-star campaigner, this horse. And he was delighted with his dressage of 27.9. But he's got to leave the poles up now, Blythe, because no mistake will go unpenalised.
No, I'd have liked to have seen him being a little bit more forward to start.
Do you think his time's going to be tight?
I do.
Well, he's on 27.9. He cannot afford even a part of a second over the time to stay ahead of Jureg.
Well ridden.
Albury Wonder Pony Oxer has jumped pretty well so far. I'm to the combination at 10. And the time is definitely looking a little bit too close for comfort. So Camille Lejeune is going to run into difficulty with time penalties here. Tahina Desil, how expensive will it be? They're clear jumping so far as they come to the last, but the clock turns red. And they go some 6 seconds over the time, 2.4 times, 30.3. It cost them some 3 places on the leaderboard, but a clear jumping. And he chose to just play it safe, Blythe, but paid for it with time penalties there.
Yeah, I mean, I do think he has to keep the horse together. It's quite a big horse, but you know, maybe a tighter line would have helped, but still 2.4 is better than 4 faults for a fence down.
It is, it really is. Well, it means that Jureg Lecoz will be in the top 10 going forward to the jumping a little bit later on. Gravine de Rêve is actually another beneficiary of that time penalty for Camille. And Janelle Price moves closer to the top 10 as well. And she needs a top 10 finish at the least here, because that will give her very good series points. If she can get a top 5, she would be absolutely delighted. This lady topped the podium at Chatsworth a little bit earlier on this year. It is Laura Collett de Capo. She was the series leader going into Arville, where this horse had a faultless clear show jumping round, but ran into difficulty on the cross country. In 9th position coming forward, 27.6. The clubhouse leader is on 28.2, so cannot afford a pole down. That's 3, no problem for Laura. Early thoughts on her time, Blythe?
Well, the horse was a little resistant to the second fence, and she had to wait for the third, but I think she'll find a little bit more of a forward flow in a minute. Yeah, this is more like it.
She snuck inside a very tight line there. Laura Collett not taking any chances with this time under Capo. She is faultless so far, and the time is okay as she comes round to the final line. She can't hang around though, because you really do see that clock tick down if riders take too much of a pull going into the final fence. So Laura Collett de Capo, a clear jumping and inside the time, 27.6. It is clear round number 7. And they will be no worse than 9th going forward to the jumping. And I think, Blythe, that was a real example. of how she could shave the time.
Absolutely.
So Laura Collett is going to be delighted with that clear round. Took all of the inside lines. Blythe, you've been saying that people need to be shaving the time on those turns for the whole of our broadcast so far. Laura did it for you.
Yeah, well, they definitely need to be aware of it. I mean, that was a very polished performance.
Well, here comes a man who topped the podium last time out. It is Tim Price. That was with his longtime partner Wesco, who was actually on the podium with here 12 months ago. Comes forward with Falco this time. Also owned by Sue Benson, who will be sat at home watching on, wishing them all the very best of luck, because this is a horse that is very much stepping up in class here this weekend. Inexperienced at the level, but one that has been a real eye-catcher so far. 27.4, and will have Janelle have fed back to Tim about the time, Blythe?
Yeah, definitely, and he will have been watching. I'm liking the start so far. And then, as we saw with Laura, after she jumped the plank, she was able to turn very tight back to the oxer, and I think Tim will do the same. Feet above that one.
Safe to say, plenty of scope, Blythe.
Yeah, he's not a big horse, but as you can see, he's very scopy.
I know Tim thinks a huge amount of him for the future. Getting good series points this weekend, then he throws himself into series contention as well. He was very tight on his line there.
Yeah.
Actually, that makes all the difference, because the time is looking okay as he comes through the final combination. Just the last two to go.
Needs to keep going.
Tim Price, don't take a pull to the last, Tim. The time is okay, just about. Tim Price sneaks inside for a clear round with Falco. Simply the best rings out here in Jardy. He was on the podium 12 months ago, and he really puts the pressure on those still to come. 27.4. He goes to the top of the clubhouse leaderboard, goes ahead of Laura Collett. And I think this is a horse whose name we should remember, Blythe.
Very impressive round. I mean, he was never in doubt, really. Lovely rhythm, but just jumped really nice and carefully over everything.
Well, absolutely scope to burn. Tim Price and Falco clear. No problems at all for them in this second of the three phases. Well, we're into the top seven here. Just 7 more combinations left to come forward. Reverse order show jumping. And only one pole covers the top 7. So next to come forward is Sarah Cohen. And Sarah Cohen, who topped the podium in Wiesbaden 2017, was second in the series that year as well. Treason the horse she rides. And now they've had 3 down in both Chatsworth and Arville. They have to jump clear here. I know Sarah's been out doing her homework. But she will be, I think, Blythe, a little bit cautious with the time, bearing in mind that her time penalties in Wiesbaden cost her a lot of money in second place on the podium.
I'm sure, but she went very up very much to the inside of that last line. He's looking a little bit strong, but this will back him up a little bit. She needs to turn now.
Alfie watching on in the background. Away from with Mum for the weekend. Here of the Wilbury Oxer. Just before jumping efforts from me. Sarah Cohen. coming down the final line. She's in third in the series. She doesn't want to hang around down to the last, but that is clear jumping so far. Equi Rating said watch out for them if they're clear, and they are. 26.3. They stay in seventh, and she will be absolutely delighted with that. She said she wanted to jump clear here this weekend. She absolutely delivered. Sarah Cohen clear, but another lady who was clear is with Hannah.
Laura, that was an absolute masterclass. You took some very tight lines.
Yeah, he's a class jumper. He's done quite a lot of show jumping over the winters, a lot of jump off turns, and actually it keeps him really, really sharp, and he's much better if the time's tight and the jumps are big. So yeah, he's really good.
It's putting you in a very good spot for this afternoon. Have you walked the course?
Yeah, we've walked the course. There's a lot of questions out there, so hopefully we'll kick on and go as fast as we can.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Well, Laura Collett clear, and she will be no worse than ninth going forward to this afternoon's cross country. So 6 more to come forward. Sarah Cohen just putting in that faultless clear round with Treason. But here comes Emily King and Brookley, owned by Jane Dalmisia, who we actually spoke a little bit to. That feature that we saw earlier on in the show. Absolutely adores this horse, but she said he's a fairly interesting technique in his jumping. She's got to make sure he's on the right stride. And they jumped clear at Bramham last time out. Emily's such a talented young rider, but there's been a huge amount of pressure on her shoulders, Blythe, given her eventing connections.
There definitely has. She copes with it really well.
She's on a score of 25.9, Sarah Cohen 26.3. So she needs to jump clear and inside the time. So far, so good for Emily King. Do you think she's just taking a slightly wider line, Blythe? Or?
It's definitely wider there, but she has been forward. And you can see the technique that Emily talks about. He is very careful, but he does hover a bit in the air.
This final line for her is going to be really interesting because the time is looking really tricky for Emily King, and that is going to cost her dearly. The clock will turn red. Emily King, Brookley are running into time penalties here, and you can see those clock up very quickly at the bottom of your screen. And actually, she clears the fences, but she picks up 3.6 time penalties. 29.5, she stays inside the top 10, but that is going to cost her dearly and will drop her some 4 places down the leaderboard. So Emily King, another to incur time penalties here, but clear jumping as the crowds are watching on here from the balcony of the Orangery. Beautiful setting. It's a fairly overcast morning. And certainly looking, I think, a little bit later for the sunshine to come out. But they'll be looking forward to the cross country a little bit later on. Of course, all of that will be broadcast live for you, eventridermasters.tv. Well, next to come forward is a man who really impressed in the dressage, Felix Vogt Calero. They come forward on a score of 25.8, and actually they've added penalties in this phase of 3 of their last 5 internationals. Everyone playing along on the Stacks app have said that 73% of you at home say they cannot jump clear and within the time allowed here. We'll watch this space. Felix would love to prove you wrong.
Good start.
A little dangerously in the combination at the beginning there, Blythe.
Yeah, a little rub. Quite deep to the planks, but did the job. Now he's got to turn back. This is the one place that you can save time. It's gone a little wide.
push. He needs to keep a little bit of an eye on the time as well. He's on 25.8. Sarah Cohen and Treason 26.3, so could afford to be 1 second over, but actually he's going to be looking very close to it. Felix Vogt, Calero come to the last and he pushes on for it, and it saves him for it as well because he remains on that score of 25.8, a faultless performance in this phase. And Felix Vogt and Calero will be 5th or worse going into the cross country. Well, Echo Ratings told us if Sarah Cohen and Treason jump clear, they will become big contenders for the cross country. Does that still ring true, Dan?
Still rings true. We're at 40% clear rate. That's coming into one of the top that we've ever seen in Event Rider Masters legs. Blythe, I told you the first phase was going to be the most influential phase, and hopefully now you're going to believe me. We've a couple more combinations, probably likely to add clear rounds here again. It's now going to have to be a question of can they jump clear and can they be inside the time. Time penalties really interesting here. We've had nearly 10 people who have kept all the poles up, but who have added time penalties. So that's an interesting one from here, but absolutely we're seeing the poll staying up. Thibaut still to come, Gemma still to come. Both of them would be hoping to add to a very high clear rate this afternoon, or this morning.
Well, next to come forward, a young man who impressed in the dressage on his Event Rider Masters debut yesterday. 25.4 the starting score for Felix Etzel and Bandit. So in 4th position coming forwards. Now he cannot afford any penalties to hold his position on the leaderboard, has to jump clear. And this is where the pressure really starts to tell, doesn't it, Blythe? Because the pressure cooker, the reverse order, you know you've got to jump clear. And actually that's where we sometimes see uncharacteristic mistakes creep in.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I mean, the closer we get to the lead, the more that you have to lose. So you put pressure on yourself.
Looking pretty keen. He's not hanging around at the early part of his round, Felix Etzel. Doesn't give the fences a lot of room, but is clearing them easily enough. That's the important thing. The back rail and the middle rail go in the combination, and that proves so expensive. It plummets him on the leaderboard. 16 places for those 2 poles down. Blythe.
Okay. I mean, you could just see a little bit of tension in this horse. He's not being the easiest to ride. Hopefully he leaves the rest of them up.
Just watching that time as well. Yeah, he's not going to hang around too much down the final line, but of course he wants to jump clear. And he clears the last 2, so it is just the 8 to add for Felix Etzel and Bandit. It drops him out of contention, 16 places on the leaderboard, and he stays within the top 20. But that is still a really tough round for Felix Etzel. Expensive, but we have just 3 combinations left to come forward. Blythe, the show jumping so far, has it played out as you expected?
No, I think there's been more clear rounds than I expected, but you know, if you haven't been clear, then it's been very influential.
Well, this is going to be a really interesting one because we've got these 3 podium riders still to come forward. So that was where Felix Etzel had his problems with Bandit and really did plummet him out of contention. A real shame for this talented young combination. But 3 riders left to go here. If you're just joining us at Haras De Jardy, leg 4 of the 2019 Event Rider Masters Series. And it is Bill Levitt, Shannondale Titan, who come forward next to go. Bill, who missed out on a very good finish in Arville with those 15 penalties on the cross country, picked up time penalties there, and we heard from Bill a little bit earlier on that he has to manage this horse exceptionally carefully in the show jumping, Blythe.
Yes, and he said that he can't add the extra strides or he's going to end up with time faults, so he's going to have to stay committed to the forward distances. He'll go direct here on 5.
Well, any pole would be really costly for him here. And actually, in terms of series points as well, Sarah Cohen equal third with him in the series. So there's a bit of a private battle going on too. Team Levitt watching on, the whole family here this weekend. Son Josh riding in his first international. And he had a bit of a difference of opinion with Shannon Dale Tyson coming into the combination.
That's what always worried me. If you're forward to that first oxer to oxer, then you have a little bit of a problem to the combination. But
and a pole goes. That is so expensive. 5 places on the leaderboard for Bill Levitt. He does clear the last and he's inside the time, but that is a heartbreak for him. He stays within the top 10 and he can still pick up good series points, but it perhaps put paid to his podium chances here. And your heart breaks for him, doesn't it, Blythe? Because it was a faultless round. Otherwise, he had no problems with the time. It was just the pole.
Absolutely. Very disappointing.
Well, Bill Levitt will be in the top 10 going forward out in the reverse order cross country a little bit later on this afternoon. But that unfortunately means he won't be in a podium position. So Felix Vogue will be in the podium places going forward to the cross country. The question is just what place will he be? We've 2 horses to show jump at the moment. The clubhouse leaderboard is Felix Vogue, Calero, Sarah Cohen, Treason, Tim Price, Falco. But of course, you've got Gemma Tattersall, Quick Look left to come, and Thibaut Valette, King de Brio. That was where Bill Levitt's heartbreak happened on course. This is the lady who jumped clear in Arville with this mare a few weeks ago. Had problems on the cross country there, but 25.1 their starting score from the dressage yesterday. Now, could afford 0.4 of a penalty, so 1 second over the time. Gemma doesn't want to have any penalties here. She wants to jump clear. She wants to be faultless, and she needs to be fairly quick, Blythe.
Yeah, I mean, again, history shows that this horse is a good jumper, and Gemma is a very experienced show jump rider. So, fingers crossed.
Well, this mare has 3 Event Rider Masters show jumping rounds in her record and 3 clear rounds. There'll be so far so good for Gemma. I know in Arville, Gemma said, Blythe, that she has to be pretty careful because if she pushes the mare too tight for the time, that's when the poles become costly for her.
Yeah, I mean, she is a good jumper, so I think that she can stay forward.
Oh, just keeping an eye on that time. It looks okay as things stand at the moment. Gemma Tattersall, who won at Chatsworth 2017 with this mare. It's the year that she took the series title as well. She's got to just keep an eye on that clock. She doesn't want to take a pull to the last here. Gemma Tattersall, Quick Look, the 5th. Can they clear the last? They put the pressure on Thibaut Valette and they stay in second or better. Clear round number 11. Gemma Tattersall, the one to beat as things stand. And actually, Blythe, it was a clear round that never looked in any doubt.
Oh, very, very nice round, very well ridden.
Big pats for Pebbles, as she's known at home. Has some really interesting markings on her. Is a real princess of the yard, but loves performing for the crowd. Loves a little bit of sun on her back. Such an extravagant jumper as well. Just see how careful she is, Blythe. That must make your job as a rider so much easier.
Well, it just gives you confidence when you walk in the ring. I mean, Gemma isn't a very experienced show jumping rider, but, you know, that was spot on.
Well, Gemma Tattersall for Great Britain is the clubhouse leader. but this man is the dressage leader. It is Thibaut Villette and King de Brio on a score of 23.2. Now, he could actually afford a couple of time penalties, but cannot afford a pole to stay ahead of Gemma Tattersall. So this is a big round for the French, a big round for the podium. Experienced under pressure, Blythe. Is that going to help them out here?
I would have thought so. Again, I think a little bit steady to start.
Clear so far as he comes to the combination. And a horse that is so far giving everything plenty of room. We need to watch the time very closely here. Gemma is on 25.1. The timer going to clock up. I think he might just sneak away with this and be okay. He just inside. So King de Brio, 1.6 time penalties, but stays ahead of Gemma Tattersall, stays ahead on the podium as well. He will be our leader. He will be the last to go on the cross country a little bit later on this afternoon. Thibaut Villette leads after the first two phases, and he is the one to beat. But it was a heartbreak in the show jumping for a couple of riders, and in particular Bill Levitt, whose pole knocked him 5 places on the leaderboard. Let's go and hear from Bill with Hannah.
Bill, you did everything in your plan, but it didn't quite go your way.
Yeah, sort of. He hangs in the air, so it's hard to get the time around these sort of tracks, around all these sort of tracks, because the time's tight. So yeah, I took one stride less than I was planning across from the Wilbury to the Oxer. And then, you know, I didn't want to go too far into that double, so then I had to sort of get him right back, and it was a bit sort of messy there. And then I probably paid for it at the next vertical because he was a little bit sort of fragile in the hand. So very fine margins. It was frustrating, but anyway, we'll just have to press on.
Press on this afternoon. Good luck, Bill.
Thank you.
Well, huge disappointment for Bill, but he is still in a top 10 placing and he can still get good series points here this weekend. It opens the door, of course, for his equal third place Sarah Cohen. We'll come on to that a little bit later, but this is how things have shaped up after the show jumping. Thibaut Villette holds his lead just after those time penalties. Went very close to Gemma Tattersall, who jumped clear with Pebbles' quick look, and she sits on 25.1. Felix Vogt moves up from 5th with Calero, and a very good clear round from Treason. Keep an eye out for them, because if the time is tight this afternoon, they are ones to watch. Tim Price, Laura Collett also looking for big series points, as is Janelle Price, Gravine Dadev. This could really see the series bunch up very closely coming out of Jardy if things continue in this vein. Camille Lejeune, Tahina Dazil, his time penalties proving very expensive, but good clear round for Raphael Cochet and Karim Leguargue, see them move up into the top 20. Disappointment for Felix Etzel there. And Tom Crisp, Liberty and Glory, also a big climb up the leaderboard for their clear round. Huge disappointment for Sydney Dufresne, Tresor Mail, and Izzy Taylor and Spring Power. Disappointment for them. So that is how the leaderboard looks, but the man who's out in front after the first two phases is Thibaut Villette.
Thibaut, you had a few time penalties, but you are in the lead going into the final phase.
Yeah, I'm really happy because he's a great jumper, but he has a really good jump today, so I'm really happy. Yeah.
Is he going to be fast around the course? Because we're not sure about the course, we're not sure about the time. What do you think?
The time on the jumping test, yeah, I'm quite disappointed, but I don't know really. I have to be very careful with the fences. So perhaps I lose a little time on the counter, I don't know.
And across the country this afternoon, is King de Brio going to be quick?
I don't know too. This is not really a good field for King because he has a very long paces in the counter. We will see. It's a preparation for the European Championship here, so we will see.
Okay, best of luck.
Thanks.
Well, we really don't know how the action is going to play out this afternoon, but the show jumping has certainly proven plenty influential on that leaderboard, even with plenty of clear rounds. Blythe Tate in the studio with me. Blythe, a few more clear rounds than we perhaps anticipated?
Yeah, definitely, but it is a quality field, good jumpers, and so probably we should have estimated a few more, but the time was very influential.
Time was tight, and actually some people paid with a pole if they pushed for the time, didn't they?
Exactly, yeah.
Well, tactical riding, but of course they've been giving us the numbers all day. They said at the beginning of the day 7 clear rounds. They revised that after the first few horses to say 12 to 14, so I think Echo ratings were about bang on. Over to Derm.
Well, not quite bang on, but it was 11 in the end that it ended up with in terms of clear jumping and clear time. What was interesting was 8 people jumped clear but added time. If you put those together, it was actually a 66% in terms of people who kept the poles up. That's massive. 38% overall in terms of clear jumping and clear time. Probably in the top 5 in terms of what we've seen. Now we move into the action this afternoon. So now we're going to start looking who is likely to be able to be fast. The jumping clear rate is high here at this venue. I'm not expecting there to be a huge amount of cross-country jumping issues, but all of the riders I've spoken to have said this is very, very tricky. I'm also not expecting there to be a huge amount of time penalties, but all the riders I've spoken to have said this is going to be very tight on time. I'm sticking with the numbers for now. I still think your favourites are probably ones that we've seen. I think Gemma takes the win here at the moment. I think it's all to play for, but I still think the first phase was and will be the most influential one.
We'll watch this space in the cross country this afternoon. Blythe, you've walked the course. What were your thoughts on it?
Well, it's my first trip to this venue, so my first look at the terrain. It's quite flat but quite twisty. For me, I think there's a lot of angles, a lot of opportunities to make mistakes, and for me the most difficult combination is the second to last fence, and so nobody's clear until they've jumped that.
No, absolutely, and we know how much, if they're chasing the clock, an easy 20 penalties can be.
Exactly. If you have all the time in the world, I think you'll be fine, but we don't. You have to kick on. So I think there will be a few clear rounds because of the quality of the field, but I do think, again, time could be quite influential.
Can I ask who you think is going to be on top of the podium?
Well, I've had a little sneaky bet with Durham with Quick Look, so I'm sticking with that.
Sticking with Quick Look, Gemma Tassel. I have to say, I think Treason, Sarah Cohen, for me, is going to be on a podium finish a little bit later on today. But make sure you join us for all of the cross-country action. We will be live for you from 12:30 Central European time. So just a quick break. Go away, refresh yourselves, and make sure you join us this afternoon, because leg 4 here in Haras De Jardy is living up to expectations. We'll see you this afternoon. Thanks for watching.